Hello, my name is Gary, and I was raised in the Western United States, so I'm a native English speaker. I hope that you will enjoy this YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us.
The 38 Letters from J D Rockefeller to His Son by J D Rockefeller, 1839 to 1937.
The 38th letter. Anyone can become a big man. June 8, 1906. Dear John, in the Gospel of Matthew, there is a holy word, you are the salt of the world. This metaphor is mundane and thought-provoking. Salt is delicious, clean, and antiseptic. Christ wanted to teach his disciples what kind of mission and what kind of influence they should have. They came to the world to purify and beautify the world in which they lived. The first duty of salt is to have a salty taste, and the salty taste of salt symbolizes a truly religious life and noble power. So what should we do with our wealth, principles, and beliefs? Undoubtedly, we need to be the salt of the world to actively serve society and make the world a source of blessing. This is our ultimate social responsibility. Our duty now is to fully devote ourselves to the world and people around us and to devote ourselves to the art of giving. I don't think there is anything greater than this. Speaking of greatness, I remember a great speech, one of the best I have never seen in my life. It tells me that there is nothing great about man, but nothing greater than man. It depends on what you do for your fellow countrymen and for your country. Now I will transcribe the words of this great speech to you in the hope that it will be of great benefit to you. Ladies and gentlemen, today I am honored to meet some of the great people here. Although you will say that there are no big people in the city, big people are all from London, San Francisco, Rome, or other big cities, but are not local. They're all from outside this city. If so, then you are very wrong. The truth is we have as many big people here as in any other city. There are many great people in the audience, both male and female. Now allow me to speak out the biggest mistake we often make when judging whether someone is a big man or not, is that we always think big man has a big office. But let me tell you, the world has no idea what kind of person is the greatest person in the world. So, who are the great people in the world? Young people may be eagerly asking such questions. Let me tell you, a great man is not necessarily someone who has an office in a high-rise building. The reason why a person is great is his own value and has nothing to do with the position he gets. Who can say that a king who can survive by eating and drinking is greater than a farmer who is diligently plowing his fields? Please don't think, young people, holding certain positions in public agencies thinking they're big figures. Now, I would like to ask all of you here, who of you intends to be a great person? The guy in the cowboy hat? You said that you would one day become the big man in this city, right? When do you plan to fulfill this wish? You said that in another war you would rush through the hail of bullets, tearing enemy flags from flagpoles, or be awarded medals on your chest. You would return home triumphant and hold a high position in public office. The government honored you, and you would be the big one. No, you cannot. No, young man. You are not a great person by doing this, but we don't blame your thinking. You were taught that in school. I remember right after the Spanish War in America, there was a peace parade in our city. I was told that a wagon had stopped in front of my house, and on it was Mr. Hobson, and everyone was throwing their hats into the sky, waving their handkerchiefs and shouting loudly, "Long live Hobson!" I would have cried if I had been there, because he deserves this great honor. But let's say tomorrow I go to the university pulpit and ask everyone, guys who sank the Merrimack. If they answered, it's Hobson, then their answer is a lie, because total of 8 men sank the Merrimack. The other 7 had been exposed to Spanish fire because of their position, and Mr. Hobson, as commander, was likely to stay out of the fire. My friends, Tonight's audience is full of intellectuals, but I dare say that none of you can tell who these 7 men were fighting with Mr. Hobson. Why do we teach history in this way? We must teach students that no matter how low a person's status is, as long as he does his duty well, the American people should honor him as a king. This is how most people teach children. Her youngest son asked, "Mom, what is that tall building?" "That's General Grant's grave." "Who is General Grant?" "He was the one who suppressed the rebellions." How can history be taught like this? Think about how the war would have gone if we had only had one General Grant. Oh, it won't. So why build a tomb on the Hudson River that's not because General Grant was a great man himself, but the tomb was built there because he was a representative of 200,000 men and women who sacrificed for country, many of them as great as General Grant. That's the reason why the beautiful tomb stands on the banks of the Hudson River. I remember one thing that can be used to illustrate this situation, and it is the only example I can think of tonight. I am so ashamed of this incident, I cannot forget it. I close my eyes now and go back to 1863, and I could see my old home in the Berkshire Hills, and saw the bullring filled with people as well as the local church and town hall. I heard the band playing and saw the flag flying and the handkerchief fluttering in the wind. I still remember the scene of that day. The crowd had come to greet a company of soldiers, and the company of soldiers was lining up. They had completed one term of military service in the Civil War and had to extend it for another term, and were now being welcomed by the elders of their hometown. I was just a young guy, but I was the commander of that company. On that day, I was as happy as an inflated balloon that only needed a thin needle to puncture me.
I was at the front of the line, and I was prouder than anyone else in the world. We lined up into the city hall, and they arranged my soldiers to sit in the center of the hall, and I sat in the front row. The town officials lined up to get out of the crowd, and they went to a stage and sat in a semicircle. Then the mayor didn't sit in the center of the semicircle. He was an old man with gray hair who had never held any position in public office before. He believed that since he held public office, he was a great figure. When he stood up, he first adjusted his heavy glasses and then looked around at the crowd with an incomparable majesty. Suddenly his eyes looked at me, and then this kind old man walked up to me and invited me up on stage to sit with the town officials. Before I joined the military, not a single city official noticed me. I sat at the stage with my sword hanging on the floor. I folded my arms and waited to be welcomed, feeling like Napoleon. Pride always precedes destruction and failure. At this time, the mayor delivered a speech on behalf of the people to welcome our soldiers returning in victory. He took out the speech from his pocket, carefully spread it on the lectern, and adjusted his glasses. He took a few steps back from the back of the pulpit, then stepped forward. He must have studied the speech very carefully, for he assumed the stance of a speaker, resting his weight on his left foot, moving his right foot slightly forward, pulling his shoulders back and opening his mouth with a 45-degree angle to speak. "Dear citizens," he began, "we are delighted to welcome these brave warriors back to their homeland. We are especially delighted to see among those with us today a young hero," meaning me. This young hero, in our imaginations, we have seen him leading his troops in a desperate fight against the enemy. We saw a shining saber shining under the bright sun. He yelled at his troops. God, the good old man, knew nothing about war. As long as he knew a little about war, he would know the fact that it is a great mistake for an infantry officer to run ahead of his subordinates at a dangerous moment. I actually held the command knife shown in the sun and shouted to my subordinates, "Attack!" I've never done that. Think about it. Would I run to the front and be surrounded by the enemy in front and my own troops behind? Officers should not have stood there. In actual combat, the officer's position is right behind soldiers. because I was a staff officer when the rebels rushed out of the woods and attacked us from all directions, I always rode on my horse and shouted to our army, "Officer back! Officer back!" Then every officer retreated to the back of the combat zone, and those with higher ranks retreated further. This is not because he lacks courage, but because the rule of combat is that if the general goes to the front and is killed, the battle will be lost. Because the whole battle plan is in his head, and he has to be in absolute safety. Did I actually hold a sword that shone in the sun? Ridiculous. Among the soldiers sitting in that city hall that day, some risked their lives to protect me. Some had carried me across a very deep river. Some were not present here because they had sacrificed for the country. They were also mentioned by the speaker, but they were not noticed. Yes, the people who really died for the country were not noticed, but I was called a hero at that time. Why was I considered a hero? It is simple, because that speaker fell into the same stupid trap. This guy is an officer, the others are just soldiers. I have learned a lifelong lesson from here, that a man with a certain title is not a great person. He is great because he does great things with small tools and accomplishes his life goals as an ordinary individual. As long as he can provide the public with wide streets, comfortable houses, elegant schools, dignified churches, sincere advice, as long as he can be thanked by the local residents, then he would be a great man wherever he goes on earth. If he isn't thanked by the locals, then no matter where on earth he goes, he is not a great person. I want everyone to know here that we live in meaningful actions, not in useless years. We live in emotions, not on numbers on phone buttons. We live in thoughts, not in air. The time we live should be counted by the beats of our hearts with the right intention. If you forget what I said tonight, please don't forget the following. The person who thinks rightly and acts nobly is the one who lives life to the fullest. Love your Father.